Hi, this is Mark from Long Island Watch. Just kidding. This isn't Mark from Long Island Watch. This is Huge Shows. But I'm kind of delving into Mark's territory here, and well, I'm not selling watches, full disclaimer. Mark and Long Island Watch sells some very great watches. I didn't happen to get this watch from them, but I've been spending a lot of time watching their videos, and I've been into watches for a while. Haven't necessarily ever had the largest collection, but it's been a fascination of mine since childhood. And I've been very much enjoying Mark's videos, both for reconfirming some things I just kind of learned instinctively through trial and error, and also showing me the correct way to do things sometimes when I've been doing them wrong all these years. So hats off to Mark, and if you haven't had a chance to check out his videos, I highly recommend you do. Anyway, what this video is all about is we'll be unboxing a Citizen Grand Touring NB0075-11F. This is the black one with the rose gold accents, and I think it looks absolutely stunning. I didn't intend to buy this watch. I saw it today at a store that was closing down, and it was dramatically marked down, so I just couldn't resist. In any event, without further ado, let's start. Oh wait, no, we got to do a wrist check, right? Okay, so let's see if I can do this and keep it in focus. On my right wrist here, we have the very cheap yet very chic Seiko 5. And that aluminum dial is catching a lot of glare off the light source I have set up here. Very inadequate light source for this, but bear with me. And on the left, another Seiko. This time from the Core collection. I forget the model off the top of my head. I want to say it's a P772 or something like that. I can figure that out or put it in the video description. Really like this watch. Blued hands, can't really see them. Fortunately, I didn't really plan out doing this part very well because it's very hard to operate the camera and get my get my wrist in front of it in focal distance. So there we go. Wrist check over. Let's bring this back up here and get it in focus. I'm using a manual focus lens, so might be a little slow to focus, but we'll be able to get all the parts we want very sharp. And this is a very high quality feeling box. It's got some good thickness and weight to it. Embossed lettering. Well, maybe not. It's just a thickly applied paint. Rises from the surface, so we open that. And there's the embossed lettering in the inner case. And we see here that the front folds down, and it looks like we got manuals and stuff in there. And then up here we have another box. So let's put that aside for a second. Take a look at what we get here. And oh, it's a padded kind of pleather affair. Let's see if we can get a sharp look at that. Citizen automatic embossed. Nice little booklet for the manual. We got white balance problems. This is what we got, but nevertheless, 5-year warranty. That's kind of nice. I'm used to the Seiko 2-year warranty. Maybe I haven't been buying the right Seikos. Citizen instruction manual. It's obviously going to be a multi-language thing based on the thickness. Okay, that's pretty cool. Put that aside. Get on to the main affair. This, I'm sure it's not real leather, but they've done something to it to give it a kind of a suede-like. I mean, it almost looks dusty on camera, but it's not. It's doing that kind of suede thing, even though I'm sure it's not suede. But we have a nice embossed Citizen logo, and yeah, more of that suede feel all the way around, and then stitching. That's real stitching. Ba-boom. Let's take a look here what we got. Reframe the camera a little. Check out the focus. And let's stand this up and get the focus peaked on there. That's beautiful. Well, we'll get a sharp look at that in a second, but let's see what else we got in here. It looks like, if I'm not mistaken, yep, they have given us a little pillow. Well, that's a nice touch, really, because that's something, you know, that's something you can put down on your nightstand and lay your watch down on at night, and no, it won't get scratched. That's very cool. Well, we'll put that aside and bring this guy up. And now the box, no, it's still padded. Even at the top here, it's still got padding. I have to say, this is a very high quality box. This is certainly a nicer box than you get on American market Seikos, and you know, it's a nicer box than I've seen in a lot of the JDM, Japanese domestic market Seikos as well. But in any event, oh, look at that. So this comes out, and oh, what do you know? Now that's cool. They spent some effort on this. I mean, this feels like memory foam. It's very plush, but the foam in there has this, yeah, I think it's memory foam. That is, that is pretty cool. They definitely spent a few extra pennies on that. Take one quick last look at the box before we put it aside. And yeah. Got a nice metal hinge in there with a spring that snaps shut nicely. And there's our box. So we'll put that aside. And now we're on to the main event. Reframe the camera here. Now this watch just jumped out at me. For starters, it was the only automatic Citizen that he had. Only mechanical Citizen he had, period. And it was also clearly the best looking one, I think. I mean, I'm a fan of simpler dials. I don't mind complications. I just don't like unnecessary bling. And I think this thing nails it. So let's talk about features here. We've got a anti-reflective sapphire crystal, which just looks great. From that side, it looks like a camera lens. It just has this incredible dome on it, and you can see, even though it's anti-reflective, it does some very cool things with the reflections at the oblique angles like this. And dead on, it does a very good job of taking background lights and not making them glare too bad. I mean, those are pretty bright light sources that I'm playing with right there. And this is the light source I'm lighting this shot with, very inadequately, I might add. So please, I do apologize. Don't bother commenting that I'm doing a crappy job shooting this. I already know I am. I like the sort of refractive colors that you get from that anti-reflective coating. Again, it reminds me of a camera lens, and I love photography. I love high quality lenses, and when I look down at my wrist and I see that on there, it just, along with this black brushed finish, it just has that camera feel to it. So if you like cameras, you might like the look of this. What do we have here? So we have, yeah, we covered that. Rose gold-ish. They look, I mean, it says rose gold in the literature, although not in the literature. I haven't looked at the literature included with the watch yet. It's definitely on the golder end of the rose gold spectrum, if it is in fact rose gold. And I'm not looking at the specs for a different watch or something dumb like that. The indices are applied and very three-dimensional, and they have lume in between the little cutouts in the indices. And interestingly, the lume is sunken down, and I can't tell if the lume is applied directly to the face. It almost appears that it's below the face. When you look at it closely, it appears the lume is actually below even where the black face is. So it really has a three-dimensional look. The lume is also applied to the arrow there of the second hand, and in two sections to each of the hour and minute hands. It's a pretty good lume. I tested it at the store when I picked this up. It's not as bright as a Seiko, though. I'll say that. At least not my first impression, anyway. So let's see here. Really having a tough time with focus. I just need a wider lens that gives me a shorter distance to work with. This isn't really the typical distance I do most video shooting with. So, okay, so moving on. It is a 28/8 movement operating at 4 Hertz. As you can see, the sweep of the second hand is very, let's see if I can get it right in the sharpest spot. The sweep of the second hand is very smooth. It's got, you can definitely see it has some judder to it. It's not a Seiko spring drive. But its overall appearance is very, very smooth and fluid. And it doesn't have a lot of kickback, like a lot of watches, they don't just advance forward, they the second hand will kind of rock back and forth a little bit, and this doesn't seem to do that. It seems to go pretty decidedly forward. The movement is a caliber 9012 Miyota movement. There's not a lot about the Miyota movement, this particular Miyota movement, you can find online, not even on Miyota's website. And that seems to be because the 9012 is a variant of the 9015 that was made specifically for this Grand Touring line, or for this particular signature collection line. I'm not sure how widely they used it, but all the information that you get when you search for this movement comes back to this watch or a variant thereof. And the 9012 is not available in anything other than a Citizen, supposedly, and only this line of Citizens. It's a 24 jewel movement. It hand winds. Very smooth. I mean, you have to turn it incredibly slowly to even feel the ratchets on the gear. It is just incredibly fine. It hacks, and it's got this very unique integrated crown guard, which at first looks really big for the watch. It looks kind of like it protrudes a little bit. I'd say more so on the stainless steel and the shiny versions of this watch. This black version really tamps down the size of this crown guard, which wears very comfortably when I tried it on. But the way this works is you just pull it out like that, and we have a 2-position crown. First position, 1 click. Oh, I didn't quite get it there. It's still winding. 1 click. Well, did I? Oh, I accidentally collapsed the crown guard. Okay, 1 click, and let me switch to the viewfinder here. Oh man, why is that all blurry? That's weird. Oh, is it using some dumb effect now? Did I accidentally turn on some stupid Hollywood effect that I don't want? Apparently I did. Maybe it was only showing up in the viewfinder, but there was this very trippy tracery effect there going on that I had to shut off to do anything. Okay, so back to the video. We've got out to the first position, and that's going to advance the date. And I actually probably shouldn't be advancing the date right now since it's quarter to 10. On a Seiko movement, that could really be a disaster. In the instructions for this, it says not to do that, but it says that the consequences of doing this is not breaking it. It says the consequences is that the day might be wrong the next day, and or it might be out of sync with the date. So they seem to have a little more protection against the damage that you get on a Seiko when you do that inadvertently. But anyway, let's not do that anymore. Pull it out one more time. Oh, if you're not careful, it's easy just to collapse the crown guard back in. Okay. Pull it out. It hacks. Set the time. Push it back in. And what's kind of cool about that is if you ever have the problem, what's kind of cool about this crown guard is if you ever have the problem, if you like to hack your watch precisely like I do, I hack my watches every day. Which is why I like them to run a little bit. If it's a mechanical watch, it's going to run either fast or slow. I prefer it run a couple seconds fast than run a couple seconds slow, because if it's running a couple seconds fast, all I have to do is hack it for 2 seconds and put it back, and it's in sync again. Whereas if it's running a couple seconds slow, I got to hack it for over a minute, adjust the minute, But anyway, if you ever have the problem where when you push the crown back in, you accidentally twist it a little, and then your minute hand jumps, and then you got to reset the thing again. This crown guard here prevents that very nicely, because you can get it out in the hacked position. See, it's stopped, and then I can just push on the crown guard. And when I'm pushing the crown guard, there's no way I can turn the crown because I'm not even touching it with my finger. So that's kind of a cool feature of that crown guard. It's also very smooth. There's no sharpness on it, and when I wear it, it doesn't bite into my hand at all like you would think something sticking out like that would. I'm not a fan of the way this watch looks in the stainless steel personally, but this black really does it for me. The sides are brushed, the lugs are brushed, and they're brushed here as well on the face of it's kind of a cushion style case. Very rounded off cushion, but cushion nonetheless. And what's nice about, and actually there is a polished edge all the way around too, so it's almost entirely brushed, but with a very nice polished edge there. And what I like about this brushing is you can clearly see that it's brushed, but when you touch it with your fingernail, the brushing is so fine that you can't even really feel it with your fingernail. It just feels like a piece of paper or something. It doesn't have that zzz, zzz, zzz that you get when on a larger kind of brushing. It's very, very smooth. All right, so it's water resistant to 200 meters. It's got that Miyota 9012. That movement is a unidirectional winding movement. So as we see here. Oh, before we take a look at the back of the movement, let's take a look again on that brushwork. Look at the buckle. They've continued that brushwork on here, and again, it's so smooth. Very smooth brush there, but then a very high polish edge. And a very small high polish edge. And what I kind of like, and I have high hopes for the wearability of this. One thing that happens to me is I work at a desk and I use a computer a lot. And what happens to me is that the bottom of my buckles, like this Seiko I'm wearing, the bottom of my buckles always scratch up on the bottom of the desk. If you use an Apple computer, use like a MacBook, that hardened anodized aluminum is, because that anodized aluminum isn't harder than stainless steel, but that anodized surface is easily enough to scratch the snot out of these. So it's one of my things I have to be careful about, and one of the things. But I have high hopes that this surface here, if it's not hard enough to prevent being scratched, that brush surface I think will mask the scratching a lot more. It won't stick out like when you have a polished buckle end and it picks up those kind of wear marks. I think this will hide the wear a lot better. Nice thick prong there. I've been told this is a Panerai style strap. I don't really know what that means. I'm not very familiar with Panerai style watches. It's a very comfortable strap. It's thick, genuine leather. It's on a 23. You know, leave it to Citizen to just give you everything you want except a reasonable lug size, right? 23. Band is made in Thailand. I heard some people griping on the online reviews that the band was made in China. I don't know if it's both, or the person didn't know what they were talking about, or they switched production. I don't know. Be interested to hear about that. So, looks like we still got the sticker over the movement. I'm going to put that aside. And let's see if I can get this in sharp focus. I'm going to switch to the viewfinder. Yeah, and you can see it's a very, you know, my lighting issues aside, I'll try and hold it in angles that best play. It's a very, very nice movement. 24 joules. Notice how freely the weight turns, the winding weight. I forget the exact, what you call it, the pendulum or whatever, you know. And that's because it only winds in one direction. It does not wind in the counterclockwise direction. In fact, it free spins. And if you give it a little slosh, you see it'll just woo, spin around on its, it'll just pick up a little momentum and go. It does, however, wind in the clockwise direction. You can see it's a little more hesitant to turn that way. I've heard it said by some that this means you have to wear it longer to fully wind it if you're depending on automatic winding. And then if you're using a winder that, you know, is bidirectional winder, you have to set it for twice as many cycles per day as, you know, say like a Seiko 6R15 or something like that. A lot of nice finishing touches on this movement. Doesn't look like any blued screws, at least if there are. They're tiny, but you know, you got some nice turning and polishing on the bridge there. The pendulum is very ornamental and engraved with the logo and the Citizen Japan. Got a couple of gold plated gears there. The balance wheels gold plated. Again, it's high beat. It's 28/8 movement operating at 4 Hertz, and it is incredibly quiet. I've had trouble hearing it, even putting it to my ear, and just the background noise of, you know, the clocks I've got on the wall and stuff like that is very hard to hear. And it doesn't make a tick tick tick. It makes a boom 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 boom. It's like boom 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 boom. It's a very, very quiet movement, very refined. The back is interesting. This watch claims 200-meter water resistance. But what do we have to hold it down? We've got 4 little screws. Not even 8, but 4. I mean, would you take this watch to 200 meters anyway? I mean, I wouldn't even take myself to 200 meters. So, you know, not too worried about it. But yeah, that is a little interesting. I would have preferred a screw down back. But, you know, can't have everything. So, yeah, it's a nice thick strap too. Measurements. You know what? You're going to have to go look that up online. I know we got a 23 lug size. I have calipers here. They're stainless steel. They're sharp as hell. I haven't taped up the prongs or anything like that. But tell you, it wears very, very well for a watch its size. So let's take a look. Put that down on the nice little pad they've provided here, and I'll take off the Seiko here on my left wrist. I'm about a 7.5 inch wrist. I have an unusual wrist though. It's kind of skinny when my palm is down, and it's very wide when my palm is up. Put this on. It's just a very comfortable strap. It feels like it's already broken. I mean, you know, this Seiko here I've had now for a week. I don't like the strap to begin with, but I've been wearing the snot out of it, and it just doesn't want to break in. They really put some stiffening bolsters in this part of the strap and left the bottom part very loose and floppy. But you know, the result is it gets this nice kink in it, and it's just so stiff here. It doesn't want to round out around this part. It wants to just be like that. But anyway, let's have a look at the Citizen here on my wrist. And I think, you know, the boniness of my wrist aside, it fits me perfectly, and it's a large watch. And what's interesting about that is that it's larger than the Seiko, but it fits me better. I think part of that's due to the strap, and I think part of that's due to the case design. And again, just look at the way that crystal, that sapphire crystal, you know, this is a lot of watch for the price range. That sapphire crystal is thick, and it just really gives this thing a quality feel. It just pops. So, Lume check. Well, I need to turn off a couple lights to make that happen. And I'll get the thing good and charged up. Here, blast some light onto there. And, ooh, that's good and hot, but I still got too much light behind me. Got too many lights on. One more light. All right, now we have darkness. And I'll get that in focus. So, I guess I didn't charge it very evenly because some of those Lume elements really aren't glowing at all, like the 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, midnight. I think part of that is because of how recessed they are. The light really has to come straight down on top of them to get it. But look at that second hand, though. That looks really cool. Just the little arrow tip there. Let's see if I can charge it up again and get those other elements going. It's bright, I'll tell you, but it's not Seiko. Not Seiko bright. Okay, I absolutely roasted the watch. And the reason, I realized when I turned the light on, that we don't have the Lume elements in 12, 3, 6, and 9 is because there aren't any. I didn't notice that before. Those are just the printed numbers there, and they're not luminous. So, nothing really to indicate which way is up on this watch. So you'd have to feel around for the crown if you weren't wearing it and you know, get oriented. Obviously, you know which way is up if it's on your wrist. Well, that's my cuckoo clock. Oops, kick the camera. Very unprofessional. Well, that is about it. Let's see the closest shot I can get and get it in focus. Look at how it just hugs the wrist. And it, you know, it's got some weight to it, but you don't feel it. It's just strap tongue maybe just a tad long for my wrist, but not by much. Maybe take a half a centimeter or a centimeter off of it, it would be perfect, but man.